morning to everyone. I pray that you're doing well today. I hope that today is amazing. If you're just coming into this room on this evening, I do want you to know that this is a continuation from the dialogue that we were having this morning about emotional wellness. To all of you that have returned this evening, let me say blessings to you. I pray that you've had time to reflect about emotional health and emotional wellness today, that you are looking forward to part two of this conversation. If this is your first time joining us, we want to say welcome to you on today. And we also want to say thank you for on this day after Christmas evening joining us for this conversation. Now, there are a few housekeeping rules. If you have never been a part of my Facebook Live throughout the year 2019, I want to give you the courtesy of knowing how to interact throughout this dialogue and discussion. All right, the first thing is that your red circles and your blue circles, which are your hearts and likes, I need those because you can see me, but I can't see you. And those red circles and blue circles are a visual sign that I am connecting with you as you are connecting with me. Also, you have the awesome opportunity to take advantage of the comment section. In that section, you can ask questions, you can make notes, you can have comments, you can even reply to others. This morning, people used the comment section also to tag family members and friends and followers as we were going through this conversation and expounding upon the dialogue or expounding upon the topic of emotional wellness today. Now, if there was something that was said today that you want me to expound upon this evening, make sure that you use the courtesy of the comment section that you remind me. Or I have my other device here. Let me open up my inbox here. That if you want to remain anonymous, that I am also able to see your message in my inbox and keep your name anonymous. Now, before we get started, I want to take this time to greet everyone that is taking the time to greet me. All right, and let me start here with Minister Tanya. Good evening to you. Daryl, good evening to you. Pastor Eddie, good evening. To Rhonda, good evening to you. Blessings to all of you that are here in this moment and in this time. All right, I'm excited about this conversation, as well as I am elated to be with all of you again. Now, we are here to talk about emotional wellness. It is important, my brothers and sisters, that we remember that we are mind, body, and spirit. All right, and that we're mind, body, and soul. All right, if you're exchanging the word spirit for soul, that we are all three of those things. And that when we are looking for emotional wellness, that there's a difference between your psychological state of being and your emotional state of being. It is important this evening as we are conversing that you become a byproduct of emotional wellness. There are some things that I'm going to say on the onset of this conversation that is critical. All right, and it's critical for you to know that a vacation will not fix emotional illness. That there are some people that really believe in their heart that if they just go on a vacation, or if they go out on a night on a town, or if they just get to church, that will fix emotional illness. My brothers and sisters, emotional illness and can only be fixed when you address it. My brothers and sisters, that when we have been emotionally spent, that many times when we have dispensed ourselves or stretched ourselves so thin that emotionally we are reckless, that it's at that moment that we begin to experience it, various deficiencies in life. These deficiencies can be in health. These deficiencies can be in finance. They could be in relationship. They can be in the workplace. I want you to know that being emotionally reckless has enough potency to destroy every relationship in your life. My brothers and sisters, there are many people that assume that they are emotionally well. But emotional wellness, my brothers and sisters, does not deal with how efficient you are at cutting people off. Emotional wellness has everything to do with you being in tune with who you are and where you're headed. It is necessary for us to realize tonight that there's a difference between, as I stated earlier, there's a difference between separation anxiety and being alone. When we're talking about emotional wellness, there are some people that are parenting from a position of emotional illness. And because they're not well emotionally, my brothers and sisters, they lack stability in engaging in relationships beyond themselves. And this happens with parents, this happens with non-parents. Emotional wellness is something that I personally believe that is necessary for all of us, my brothers and sisters, to begin to examine ourselves on where we are emotionally. Lord have mercy. It's a quiet church here tonight, so I see I'm going to have to keep right on working. Emotional wellness. You must realize that as a human being, that you're going to go through trials. You're going to go through hindrances. You're going to have obstacles in your life. There's nothing that you can do that can stop hindrances from happening. There's nothing you can do that can stop obstacles from happening. You will fool yourself if you think you can live a life that is problem-free. My brothers and sisters, emotional wellness is developed through a course of time. And this course of time is the time that is spent, my brothers and sisters, in you learning yourself through recovery. My brothers and sisters, as we are examining tonight emotional health, many times, many of you hear me quote from various books and things, and I don't want you to think that I'm just shopping for quotes on the internet, but no, really, I do read. I have books here. See, I have books. And there's something in the chapter of this book here that definitely I want to read to you tonight. This book is entitled Extraordinary Relationships, A New Way of Thinking About Human Interactions. All right, and this is by Roberta M. Gilbert, MD. Okay, so she has a chapter in her book, a very good book. She has a chapter in her book, and I want to read something. I want to read something to you. Okay, she says that anxiety, of course, is part and parcel of the human condition. She says there is no escaping anxiety. She says since anxiety is a powerful teacher, it is doubtful that anyone will want to live a totally anxiety-free life. She says anxiety can be acute, meaning short-term, as in crisis, or it can be chronic. All right, or it can be chronic. Let me see it. Do you mind typing the name of the book in the comments? Okay, yeah, sure, Daryl. I type the name. Or it can be chronic, lasting many years or even generations. Dr. Roberta says that in difficult relationships, there is a reverberation of emotion from person to person that is very much like the excitement that begins with one animal and spreads through their entire herd. She says it is almost as if in relationship systems, electrical connections link the individuals of the system, transporting emotions and feelings from one individual to another continuously. Now, it is necessary for me to, let me type this here for Daryl. Uh, let's see here. Extra. Didn't, I'm trying to get it. All right. Okay, there you go, Daryl. All right. Now, when we're talking about when we're talking about emotional wellness, how you doing, Prophet? When we're talking about emotional wellness, your spirituality does not override your emotional stability. My brothers and sisters, there are many people that are attempting to be spiritual over their emotion. Now, I get it because you've experienced charismatic ministry, and in charismatic ministry, you hear many of us say that it's not about emotion. However, my brothers and sisters, I want you to know that you must be mindful of how you dehumanize yourself, because there are many people that are controlled by their emotion. See, we use this type of terminology in church settings where it's not, and we'll say things that it's not about emotion, but there are many people that are guilted into love. There are many people that are guilted into relationship. There are people that are guilted into friendships. There are people that are trying to buy friendships and buy love. Here's the thing, my brothers and sisters, is that you must be mindful, as Dr. Roberta has stated, you must be mindful when your anxiety has become chronic. My brothers and sisters, our emotional health is indicative to our physical health. Post the conversation today, I was thinking, how many people are healthy physically? They go to the gym regularly. They have a regular workout regimen, but the sickness that they have really is in their soul. And how many people have you seen die by way of heart attack, or that was extremely healthy by way of physicality, but the sickness wasn't in their body. The sickness was locked within their soulish realm, within their emotional state. My brothers and sisters, you got to realize that who you are emotionally is really connected to who you really are. See, um, 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 let me give an example. All right, there are some people that wear what we call fashion glasses. There's no medicine in the lenses, but they wear the glasses to appear differently upon others, towards others. But here's the thing that I want you to see, is that sometimes that we are so inwardly disgusted with who we are that we will spend an exuberant amount of time to make sure that we appear to be somebody different. My brothers and sisters, your emotional health and your emotional state of being is critical. It is critical that you understand who you really are. And you must have some time with yourself in being honest. You're working through burnout right now. And the burnout didn't come through your job. Your burnout has come through how you've helped others. You're working through burnout right now. And what is happening with burnout is that you're trying to overcompensate by how you give out, Lord Jesus, so that it don't look like the real condition that's going on the inside of you. All right, I'm gonna read something else out of Dr. Dr. Roberta's book here. All right. I think it's in this book. This is going to bless you. Let me see here. Yeah, here we go. This is going to bless you. See, when you are emotionally spent, what happens many times, let me get here to this chapter. All right. Many times when you are emotionally spent, you will spend hours. Let me see, is this the chapter here? You will spend hours, you will spend days becoming an over functioning person. How many people do you know that are burnt out? They're burnt out of doing the same thing. They're burnt out of being in the same place. They're burnt out of just being who they were. They're burnt out. But now, because you don't want the critique of others, now you try to over compensate or over exemplify who you are. You try to magnify that times 10 because you're not ready to be honest about how you really feel. It is in my own personal belief, my brothers and sisters, that there are many pastors, that there are many leaders that don't want to be honest with themselves. See, my brothers and sisters, let me tell you what I mean. Is that sometimes there are goals and goals, personal goals that people have for themselves, and they never admit to themselves when they feel like they have let themselves down, when they feel like they have failed themselves. My brothers and sisters, I believe that when we live a life where we are so detached from who we are that we then have dehumanized ourselves to a place, my brothers and sisters, to where we are no longer living realistic lives. All right, so let me read something. Let me read something here out of Dr. Roberta's book. I want to read to you something about overfunctioning relationships here. Okay? All right, let me see here. All right. Okay, let's see here. All right. All right. Listen to this. The partners in an overfunctioning and underfunctioning relationship have varying degrees of understanding as to how the relationship itself brings about the dependency and illness of the underfunctioning spouse. All right. She says one of the two may see that the relationship contributes to the illness, but has no idea how to break the long-standing pattern. While the overfunctioner in this example is male, the roles are just as often reversed. Meaning, my brothers and sisters, if overfunctioning is present, meaning if you are an overfunctioning person, you might see this. You might be advice giving, doing things for others that they could do for themselves, worrying about other people, feeling responsible for others, knowing what's best for them, talking more than listening, having goals for others that they do not have for themselves, experiencing periodic and sudden burnouts. When you become an overfunctioning person, my brothers and sisters, you are overcompensating for the lack of productivity, the lack of initiative, the lack of will, the lack of drive for other people. There are many people, my brothers and sisters, that are living their lives from an emotionally spent place. Meaning that you do not have any more credibility. You don't have nothing else to give from. You don't have anything to work with. So now, to make yourself feel great about yourself, you overcompensate and you start living your life as an overfunctioning person. And that makes you feel good because your low morale that you have about who you are, what you didn't do, what you didn't accomplish, what you failed at, the mistakes that you made, because you have been so heavy in criticizing yourself, critiquing yourself, that now you've become an enabler, and now you are overfunctioning for people that really could move forward themselves. Lord have mercy. All right, let me read this, and then I'm gonna talk about emotional wellness some more here. All right, Dr. Roberta says that in an underfunctioning state, if the person is underfunctioning, you need to know this. If you are an overfunctioning person, I just read to you some of the attributes of an overfunctioning person. But if you are dealing with an underfunctioning person, here are some attributes, according to Dr. Roberta, what she suggests that you will experience. All right? So, an underfunctioning person, they ask for advice when what is needed is to think things out independently. See, you got to be mindful, my brothers and sisters, that you are not so emotionally empty that you are trying to build value. Oh, God have mercy. You're trying to build value and self-esteem from people and situations that they can figure out themselves. She says that the person, when they are underfunctioning, that they will ask for advice when the only thing they need to do is think through it independently, and they will come to their answer. This is not rocket science. She says when the person is underfunctioning, she says they're getting others to help when the help really is not needed. My brothers and sisters, how many times have you dealt with an underfunctioning person? Lord have mercy. They asked you to pick up the paper, and there was nothing in their hands that stopped them from picking up the paper. Do you understand what I'm telling you? When we're dealing with underfunctioning people will expect you to be reasonable in unreasonable means and unreasonable matters. You cannot dance through that level of insanity. My brothers and sisters, let me see here. She says, underfunctioning people, they're acting irresponsibly. Do you know why overfunctioning people? Let me ask you this question. Do you know why overfunctioning people have a tendency of covering underfunctioning people? Usually, the underfunctioning people are people that they love dearly. And the reason that overfunctioning people will cover underfunctioning people is because they are trying to protect them from the critique, the criticism, the failure, and the ridicule that they may experience by being an underfunctioning person. My brothers and sisters, it is necessary that when we're talking about emotional wellness, that you live a life that you're honest with yourself. My brothers and sisters, it is very okay to be disappointed, but it is necessary that we be mindful of how we make life commitments or life decisions in states of disappointment. Disappointment is a temporary state of emotional being. My brothers and sisters, it is necessary that we don't make life commitments, life-changing commitments based on loneliness. Don't you understand that loneliness is an emotion that is temporary? You will not always be lonely. My brothers and sisters, if you're living a life and you're telling yourself that you're always lonely, you're always lonely, you're always lonely, you're always lonely, the more that you repeat that emotion to yourself and tell yourself that that is how you're feeling, my brothers and sisters, it's only a matter of time that you end up with some type of psychological issue, some type of psychological challenge that then will alter decisions, Lord have mercy, that will alter decisions that need to be made in your life. All right, let me say something else here. All right, she says that underfunctioning people she said they're floating without goals much of the time. Underfunctioning people, they're listening more than talking. You can't get underfunctioning people to make no initiative, no commitment to anything. Underfunctioning people, they'll let you put words in their mouth and then they agree with what you say. My brothers and sisters, watch this. Underfunctioning people will set goals but not follow through with them. Oh God, underfunctioning people, they becoming mentally or physically ill frequently. Didn't I just tell you that? She says underfunctioning people, they tend to become addicted to substance abuses. Now, I need to also add this to you, that I need to add this for you that she does not have in her book, but underfunctioning people also become addicted to people. Underfunctioning people also need people. And underfunctioning people, my brothers and sisters, will use mechanisms to keep you connected to them, providing for them, being there for them, because they are terrified at creating initiatives for themselves that matter. When you're dealing with emotional wellness, my brothers and sisters, it is critical that as we are looking at an emotional state of being, that we find ways that we are emotionally conscious, no, that we're psychologically conscious about our emotional being. Lord have mercy, that's my Holy Ghost clap. I had to clap that out. We need to have a state of consciousness about where we are. My brothers and sisters, you do not do yourself any justice if you are telling yourself that you are well and you're not well. You are not doing yourself any justice. Listen, I'm not talking about telling others. Watch this. We have a deficiency that we always want to tell others where we are. My brothers and sisters, this is not about telling others where you are. This is about your ability to recognize where you are and then, watch this, make the necessary adjustments to where you are emotionally. My brothers and sisters, you cannot afford to use avoidance tactics and cutoff tactics. See, you can't afford to do that, my brothers and sisters, because if the Bible says there's a way that seemeth right unto man, but at the end thereof there is death and destruction. If you continue to cut everybody off in your life, to cut things off in your life, cut people out of your life, you never know at what point in your life that you will need to cross that same bridge again. My brothers and sisters, it is critical in this day and in this hour that as we're talking about emotional wellness, that you cannot be emotionally well if gossip is in your heart and in your spirit. The reason that I'm telling you this, my brothers and sisters, is because gossip will poison the soul. There are many people that are making decisions on non-truths and half-truths. The half-truths are, it has something sort of kind of right, but it's not the full truth. The non-truths, meaning that you believed in what you deemed to be a creditable source, but here it is, creditable sources can have misinterpretations, misunderstandings, and creditable sources can get facts wrong. It all depends on where it comes from. That's why, my brothers and sisters, when you're talking about emotional wellness, you got to make sure, my brothers and sisters, that you're in tune with who you are. Now, let me share this about emotional wellness. When you are talking about emotional wellness, my brothers and sisters, you have to be mindful. You have to be mindful if you're listening to help someone, or if you have become the one that is a listener, but you're somebody's dumping ground. You should not be the type of individual that you just digest everything and anything that people bring to you. At some point, you need to know when you're cut off, when you've hit your limit, when you've maxed out. But what is happening is that people are thinking that they are spiritual giants, and you are operating in some type of hypnosis. You're operating in some type of hypnosis, thinking that just because you are spiritually strong, that humanistically you can handle anything that's brought to you. My brother and sister, to be emotionally well, you got to have some level of connectivity with who you are as a person, and you got to be able to say, no, that's not good for me. Look, I would love to hear you today, but trust me, topics like that send me haywire. So you got to find somebody else to talk to. My brothers and sisters, it is necessary that when you're talking about emotional wellness, you got to make sure that you are doing things that keep keep you emotionally healthy. Now, that leads me to the conversation of generational emotional behaviors and patterns that have been practiced in our lives that we don't call to the carpet. There are many of us that are doing things that have been inherited. Lord, we're responding to life through inherited behaviors that come through what? That come through our bloodlines. My brothers and sisters, just because you was born in a family, just because you was born in a community, just because you was raised a certain way does not mean that you have to apply the same kind of response to life and situations the way the family did. The way that you get beyond that, my brothers and sisters, is that you got to be able to change your moral consciousness. You got to be able to make decisions from a different moral compass and make sure that you're not moved, Lord have mercy, by the norms, Lord, by the norms of your own family. My brothers and sisters, okay? All right, so let me give some personal testimonies, all right? All right, some personal testimonies, all right? Now, my father, he died. All right, so my father was a pastor. The late Roosevelt Ethridge Sr. was a pastor. All right, now I learned some good things from him, both bad and good. Everything that I learned from my father, do you understand? Everything that I learned from my father was not because he just told me everything that was right. I also learned from my father because I watched his failures. I also went back, now that my father's deceased, I also examined his weaknesses. And I've gleaned from them and said, you know what? I don't want to be that. And that's not what I want to experience. So I learned from his good and I learned from his bad. Now, let me share with you how I've learned emotionally. All right. Now, my father, being a pastor, he suppressed every negative feeling that he had with people. All right? My father was like one of those people that you couldn't get him upset. He was one of those great people. And one of the things that I examined from him is that you cannot be emotionally healthy if you are suppressing every negative emotion in your life. No, there's a difference between suppressing those emotions and redirecting those emotions. Lord have mercy. Don't you know the Bible says, be angry, but sin not. Have you ever thought about what that metaphor means? My brother and sister, that there is a level of anger that we all will experience. What I learned from my father is that it is extremely unhealthy to suppress every negative emotion that may arise in my heart. However, I must learn to redirect those negative emotions. When I redirect those negative emotions, the redirection first begins with a reevaluation of why I feel that way. See, usually what happens when we are looking or doing self-examination, trying to identify our negative emotions, rather than doing a re-examination of where this emotion come from, where this feeling come from, what we do, if we're not suppressing, then we want to take the emotions into a readdress. My brothers and sisters, what is problematic about the readdress is that you can do things that are prematurely and that are more detrimental in your premature state than waiting on the perfect time to examine how you feel. And that sometimes you'll find that the perfect time comes when you actually say, you know what? I'm offended. But guess what? I see where they're coming from, and there's no need for me to address it. I'm moving on with my life. And rather than addressing them with how I feel, I'll reassess myself, and I just change my level of interaction with them so I don't put myself in the same predicament again to be offended. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? When we're talking, my brothers and sisters, when we're talking about emotional wellness, it is necessary for you to understand that you are required to make sure that you are well. Lord have mercy. See, my brothers and sisters, one of the things that I learned from my father, because he would suppress his feelings. And guess what? When he suppressed his feelings, he channeled those feelings into church work. Well, what I had to learn about redirecting those feelings is that there's more to me than just being a pastor. There's more to me than just overseeing ministries. There's more to me than just organizing a sermon. There's more to me than doing church work. So what I've learned to do and what I'm steady learning to do is to take those negative emotions and redirect them and use them as fuel to accomplish things that I was afraid of accomplishing. My brothers and sisters, when you're talking about emotional wellness is not about lavish living. Listen, if it was about lavish living, then why do you have millionaires? Why do you have wealthy people committing suicide? Emotional wellness is not about money. We in the church have to stop pushing people's total purpose of living is about making an exuberant amount of money and lavish living. No, the purpose of why you exist is not so you could just live and then make an exuberant amount of money and have lavish living. No, the purpose of why you live is for you to identify what deposit you are going to leave in the earth. Why were you created? My brothers and sisters, when you figure that out, then you'll realize that the money as it relates to the kingdom turns into provision. And then the provision will always manifest itself in relationship to your emotional wellness. Lord have mercy. See, my brothers and sisters, emotional wellness is something that we do not talk enough about, but we must continue to have the conversation. We must continue to provoke, invite, and talk to people about emotional stability. My brothers and sisters, it is okay. All right, I'm getting ready to give one word that's going to deliver several people on this Facebook Live. When I say deliver, I'm talking about it's going to free you. All right? It is healthy and it is okay for you to say when you are overwhelmed. There are many of you that are listening to me right now, and you have never even opened your mouth and said that I'm overwhelmed. What you end up doing, you end up trying to portray as though you're this superhuman. You just say, I can take this, and I can take that, and I can take this, and I can take that. Yeah, give me that too. I can take this. No, my brothers and sisters, when life hits you, it is okay for you to say, I'm overwhelmed by life. It's okay. Why? Because you are human. Listen to me. People cannot be People cannot be true covenant partners to you if you don't ever have any issues. If you don't ever have any problems. Listen to me. This life that we live is going to serve you with emotions, my brothers and sisters, that sometimes it's going to have you maxed out. When I mean maxed out, meaning that your thinking capacity, you won't have any more room within your capacity to think, to try to figure out what's going on. That's why, my brothers and sisters, the Bible declares that he says, in our weakness that he is made strong. My brother and sister, he says, also let the strong bear the infirmities of the weak, meaning this twofold thing is going to happen. That when you're weak, that God will fortify you. That also when you're weak, that God will put strong people around you that will not judge you for your weakness. When you're talking about emotional wellness, my brothers and sisters, you got to make sure that you're not condemning yourself for having human moments. Lord, I figured it was going to be a quiet church tonight. I figured it wasn't going to be real rowdy because there are many people that are living that are living in defeated places because You never thought that you was going to respond the way you did when you was overwhelmed. You didn't think that that was going to be named of you when you were overwhelmed. Lord, have mercy. My brothers and sisters, don't you understand that when you came into Christ, Lord have mercy, when you came into Christ, God didn't save your humanity. God saved your soul. He didn't save your humanity. Now, that is not a courtesy for you to live your life vicariously. But this right here is a consciousness for you to be honest with God. The Bible says, "Oh, wretched man that I am." My brothers and sisters, there are some of you, you're trying to be spiritual giants when you have defeated yourself emotionally. You don't even want to say that your feelings are hurt. Lord have mercy. You keep telling yourself, "I'm fine. I'm not bothered. I'm okay." My brothers and sisters, no. What makes you strong is that, watch this, is that you're able to see who you are. Watch this, but who you are is not what controls your responses to life. See, if you have this disconnection with who you are, then every time you fail, every time you quit, every time you stop, every time you don't fulfill, what is going to happen is you're going to make a justification of why you were that way. My brothers and sisters, what I'm telling you is that when we're living in this human frailty, we don't have to make justifications about who we are and what we've done. My brothers and sisters, what you got to realize is that as an individual is that you're not perfect. You're striving for perfection. My brothers and sisters, that when you're dealing with emotional wellness, there are some of you. All right, let me give you another example. All right, before I go to some of you, let me tell you about when my father died. When my father died, okay, I want to be honest. All right, when my father died, I was around 17 years old. All right, at 17, all right, I just thought that, when a person dies, let's say sometime after the funeral, that, you're done with it. All right. What nobody told me is that grief can follow you for years. Neither did anyone tell me. Now, I learned all this through education. Neither did anyone tell me that you can make life conscious decisions from a place of grief, and that's not good. Now, the problem that I experienced at 17, I'm going to tell you from age 17 to about 22 or so, that I made decisions because I was still grieving the loss of my father. Let me tell you how I know I was grieving the loss of my father. Because I was trying to ignore the fact of dealing with loss in my heart. I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know how to address it. I didn't know how to approach it. I thought that approaching loss through death, approaching loss through death came by ignoring it. No, when you're approaching loss through death, it comes by acknowledging those emotions that will follow you at various points of your life and you being honest with how you feel. Lord have mercy. So let me tell you some of the things that I did. So at a very young age, when I lost my father, because I was aching emotionally, I made some decisions in my life. Do you understand? I made some decisions in my life that I thought was going to please my father. Now, I'm not talking about having a relationship with family. I'm talking about life decisions, purpose, career, goals. I was setting goals. When I was going through grief, I was setting goals that I thought was going to make him happy. My brothers and sisters, what I found out is that I was an emotional wreck. Why? Because the one thing that I came into knowledge of is that you cannot at no time make a dead man happy. I don't care how close they were to you. I don't care how long they lived with you. I don't care how if you cared for them. There's nothing you can do to make someone that is deceased happy. The best thing that you can do to make someone that is deceased happy in your life is for you to figure out your purpose and chase it. So, there was the things that I were doing. There was choices that I made. There were decisions that I made. All right, see, I know some of you want to hear what kind of decisions so I can be clear. Well, let me tell you. All right, some of you don't know this. All right, at the age of 17, when my father died, I signed up for the United States Marine Corps. When I signed up for the United States Marine Corps, I denied 3 full ride scholarships to go to college. It was in my heart to become a lawyer, but I didn't know how to redirect. Lord have mercy. I didn't know how to redirect. I didn't know how to redirect my emotions and my feelings. Yes, Mike. I have that book too. Yes, Lord. I have that book, Emotionally Healthy Spiritual. I got that one too. But I didn't know how to redirect my feelings. What I end up doing is, let me show you. It was a trickle down effect. Now, because I did not know how to own my feelings and own my purpose, as I was in grief, then I found myself living a life where then I was making decisions that I thought was going to be politically correct because I didn't have courage to own my own purpose. Do you understand what I mean? I didn't have the courage to own my purpose. So what happened is I ended up in a place where I needed people to tell me that I was doing well. I needed people to tell me that I was doing good. But the problem was is that I was not walking out my true purpose. So I was doing things to have people to stroke my emotions where I was emotionally depleted because at that point of my life, I didn't have enough completions to build confidence. Confidence, my brothers and sisters, you cannot build confidence from incompletes. You can only build confidence from those things that you finish and those things that you complete in life. So I was failing myself. Lord have mercy. Because I was living a life in the church with God, prophesying, playing drums, being in the church. I was living a life, but I needed people affirmation. See, I know some of you are listening to me, and you done convinced yourself because you done read the book Love Languages, and you done told yourself that you need affirmation. My problem with affirmation, my brothers and sisters, is that I found myself like Dr. Roberta says in her book, I found myself an under-functioning person. And I started keeping company with people, wanting them to figure out things that I could figure out by myself. But because I did not have the confidence, I didn't have the courage in me, I was not ready to trust my independency. So I was emotionally depleted. Lord have mercy. My brothers and sisters, it is necessary for you that if you're going to redirect who you are, if you're going to redevelop who you are, that you got to start dealing with you you got to start dealing with you. There are too many of you that are listening to me and you spend too much time talking about how people make you feel. You spend too much time criticizing the projections of how people say you are to them. No, I'm not talking about any of those projections. What you need to be able to have connection with is who were you, and then you need to be able to defend where you're not willing to go back to. All right, let me clean that up. I'm telling you that if you were a person like me, where you didn't have the confidence to make decisions for yourself, to better yourself, to change yourself, there is no reason that you should let anybody, including yourself, slam you back to a place of low self-esteem where you are living with inferiority complexes. Lord have mercy. Do you hear what I'm trying to tell you tonight? Because I'm telling you this because some some people's challenge is like mine. You are challenged emotionally. Lord, have mercy. And you are doing things where you're trying to avoid how you really feel because you're trying to escape the feeling. All right, last night or yesterday, my son and I was in New York, and you know, in the streets of New York, like anywhere, we saw some people that were homeless. And yesterday, I felt compelled. I felt compelled to tell my son that there was a moment in life where I felt like homelessness was my option. Now, I know some of you ain't never heard this, and some of you could be my family on here. And I want to explain to you like I explained to him. There was a point in my life where I was battling low self-esteem. My morale was so low. I had so many losses in my life simultaneously that I personally felt like homelessness was the option. That was because I didn't have a place in myself to pull up my to pull up my bootstraps and say, Roosevelt, you could be better than this. So I became comfortable. Watch this. I became comfortable with being around people that didn't want much from me. Lord have mercy. I became comfortable with being around people that didn't have high expectations of me because I was emotionally empty. So I needed the company of people to feel better about decisions. So watch this. There were jobs that I did that I knew I was better than what I was doing. But watch this. Oh, I'm ready to bless you. I hope that you're listening. I knew there was jobs, I'm talking about caliber of jobs, that I was better, that I really could do those jobs. But I took the lower end job. Why? Because I needed, Lord have mercy, I needed the affirmation. And I rather have the affirmation rather than, watch this, live in the place of credibility. Well, you cannot walk in credibility if you're in a space in your life or in a position in your life where you as an individual are emotionally spent. Lord have mercy. Always be mindful of people. Always be mindful of people that only show up in your life when you need to cry. I'm going to say this again. Be mindful of people that only show up in your life when you need to cry. Or be mindful of people that only show up when you need to complain. You need people in your life that's not only present when you complain and when you cry, but these same people that advocate for you, you need some people in your life that will also advocate for your turnaround, that will also advocate for your change, that will also advocate for you being a better version of yourself. All right. So let me give you an example. All right. There was a time in my undergraduate degree. All right. I was a single father and I was much younger. So we're talking at least anywhere between 9 and 11 years ago. All right, there was a time in my undergraduate degree where I had to withdraw out of school. I had to drop out. Now, let me tell you a series of things that happened that caused me to drop out. But I'm going to tell you one of the best things that happened in that moment. And I thank God. I still, to this day, I thank God for this man of God. All right. All right. So at that time, I got laid off from my job the second time. I felt rejected in church. I felt like I was alone, even though I have a close-knit family. How many of you have a close-knit family, but you still feel alone? That's what isolation does. Isolation would do that to you. You can be isolated by problems. You can be isolated by things and issues. Well, I had that going on. Then I had the complex wishing my father was still alive. If my father was still alive, I'd have had somebody to walk with me through my problem, or I'd have had somebody to help me in my burden. I had a whole lot of things going on. And I remember going to the dean, because to have an official withdrawal from school, the dean had to sign off on my withdrawal slip. And I remember my dean at the time, he looked at me in my eyes and he said, Roosevelt, you are an intelligent young man. And he says that you don't have to withdraw. He says, actually, you're withdrawing because you're withdrawing to make yourself feel good. This is what he tells me. He says, so he asked me some of the things that was going on. I told him a series of things that were going on. And this is the next thing that he told me. He says, before I sign your withdrawal slip, I'm going to pray with you. He says, because quitting is not an option for you, and withdrawing will not be the last thing to the last end to your life. He says, because that's not who you are. He says, I understand it. He said, but you don't have to do this. But listen to me. All right? Rather than asking him for wisdom to understand what he meant by me, what are some other options I didn't have to withdraw, I was so emotionally depleted. I was so mentally gone that I didn't know how to even say, well, Dean, can you help me? And for confidentiality, I'm not saying his name. All right. But listen, I said, I didn't know how to say, can you help me? So I took the withdrawal. All right. He prayed with me, but I took the withdrawal as an escape. And the escape was that if I withdraw from school, then I won't have the same level of pressure or expectancy if I just stop going to school altogether. Now, what I learned about myself in that moment was that was a familiar spirit for me, and that when I go back to my childhood, when things became extremely difficult, rather than learning how to work in overdrive and accomplish the goal, it was easier for me to appease all of my critics and stop what I was doing and do what they wanted me to do, because I was still seeking for affirmation, because I was emotionally depleted. I did not learn at that moment that to become creditable, to build confidence, it comes with completions. If I would have persevered, then what I learned now, if I would have persevered in that moment, that my emotion, my morale would have changed, because the completion would have changed my outcome. So I thank God for that dean that prayed for me, because I spent a year out of school, but then I went back. And what I've learned from that moment is I've learned how to fight when I felt like I didn't have any energy. What I'm telling you is that when you are emotionally depleted, that is not the time for you to begin to depend on your emotions. My brothers and sisters, your emotions will always tell you to quit when something is hard. Your emotions will always tell you to stop when something is difficult. What you need in your life, you need people in your life, you need a support system in your life that can help you recover emotionally. My brothers and sisters, I was in a position where there have been many times I have not been emotionally well, and I had to be honest with myself. All right, I want to give some more transparency. The loss of my father was not the only time that I've been emotionally spent. When I went through a divorce, my brothers and sisters, that took something out of me. But one of the deficiencies deficient habits that I picked up through my generation is that you just got to keep pressing forward. You got to go on. You got to go on. Go forward. But nobody told me how to take the blow, reset, and then move forward. What I'm telling you is that when you are emotionally spent, my brothers and sisters, you got to be mindful. You got to be mindful when you are making life critical decisions from a place where you are no longer emotionally stable. I did it. So now I live my life where I try to be mindful to not repeat that space in life. I try not to go back to that space where I'm making decisions from a place where I'm emotionally spent. I've learned how that when I'm emotionally empty, I've learned how to just stand still and do nothing. I thought, in my mind, I thought that when you are emotionally empty, that you got to do something in order to change it. I've learned that once I am emotionally empty, that's the moment that I stand still. I mark time. I become consistent, do what I've been doing. All right? And through time, I let the completions help to reestablish my emotional wellness. I've also learned that when I'm emotionally spent, that is not the time to take on additional emotional responsibilities from other people. There are some people that are living emotionally, and the reality of where you are walking out emotions that have been cast upon you from other people. They feel better, now you feel bad. Make sure that you are not the type of person tonight that you are carrying everybody's emotions and they are around feeling better and you feel bad. If you are feeling bad, if you not only, all right, let me give some parameters. If you not only are feeling bad, but if you've lost focus on your purpose, if you've lost focus on the big picture, if you're no longer seeing clearly what it is that you should be accomplishing, what you should be doing, who you should be becoming, then guess what? You're carrying too much baggage. You need to cut off some of the excess weight. There are some of you, what you can become the very thing that God wants you to become because you have the talent, you have the skill. Some of you have the experience. Some of you got the credibility. You got education. But the only reason you haven't became it yet, it could be because you're carrying too much emotional responsibility of others. You've become the burden carrier for the other people. Lord have mercy. All right, I'll spend just a few more moments, all right, for those that are here. So if you are here with me right now and you are saying, okay, I don't need you to stop right yet. I need some more of this information. I need some more conversation. You need to put some hearts and likes on the screen because emotional